First, I want to go ahead and welcome all of our regular listeners and any newcomers to Can of Worms. Before we start tonight, though, I do just want to warn everybody that we may be talking about some situations that might be a little more tough to handle for some people in reference to what's going on with Activision Blizzard right now that could offend some people. These topics are going to involve situations of a sexual nature and suicide. Though I do want to extend our appreciation to all of our listeners. If you are triggered by these topics, I implore you stop listening. If you are a victim of sexual abuse, please reach out to RAINN at 1-800-656-4673 for help. If you have suicidal thoughts or feel the need for self-harm, please reach out to the Suicide Prevention Hotline at 1-800-273-8255. Both lines can be reached 24/7, and please remember that there is hope and you are not alone.
Yeah, sorry about the dip there after he said that, but yeah.
Oh, no, you're fine.
It's a tough topic to get into, but it's been in the news all week. Are we all four of us pretty familiar with it now?
Heard bits and pieces of it for sure. I'm probably the least familiar with it, but I've got a good working understanding of it.
Yeah, that was me about 2 hours ago, Cedric. So I mean, I watched some videos on it. I think Belly Alert did a good job covering it. I know that he has sources within Blizzard as well, and
Jim Sterling also had a really good piece on it Monday.
He did. Are you talking about the one where he was just basically, he was like, look, for all the people who just couldn't wait for me to, do this.
Yeah, he's like, this is not a funny video. This is the details.
Yeah, he's like, I'm just disgusted, and that's kind of where I was exactly at after I had learned more about it. But since you do, I think, know the most out of at least the four of us, why don't you go ahead and kind of bring us into this kind of difficult topic?
To cut right to the chase of it, Activision Blizzard has reportedly been a cesspool of sexual harassment and misconduct towards its female employees, and what recently happened to cause the current strike and all the uproar on the internet all of a sudden is a woman killed herself after suffering under sexual harassment from her manager or managers at Blizzard for, I don't remember the time frame, but that doesn't really matter. But it's been a 2-year investigation for the company overall, like just general sexual misconduct and stuff.
Do you know?
They call it frat boy mentality.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you know if they were aware of the lawsuit, or at least the investigation, or was it done?
Oh yeah, everyone knows about it. There's no one that works at Activision Blizzard that didn't know about it.
I mean, while it was going on.
Do you mean the people doing the investigation know that this woman was being harassed?
No. So what I mean is, were employees at Blizzard aware they were being investigated while they were being... Okay, they were. Okay.
Yes.
It's just that the public...
The investigating happened after she killed herself, and they had something to look into. The investigation wasn't going on while it was happening, from what I understand. So it was all after the fact. So, yeah, they weren't letting it just happen.
Well, legally, it has to be public knowledge to the employees of that company when something like that happens. So, yes, they did know.
Oh,
right.
Okay. So does that give them the ability, basically, to assist in the investigation, so to speak? At least without fear of reprisal.
No one knows, because this has been going on for a while, and absolutely nothing has been done so far, so...
Well, they did actually file...
Wait, at what point does it become where they have to make it public knowledge to the employees?
Well, when a company comes into basically to audit a company for something like that, it has to be made public knowledge to the employees of that company that it is happening. I don't think it has to be done immediately, but when more gets dug up, it does have to become public knowledge to everyone.
I know the audit has to become knowledge to them, but not the contents, I don't think, until it's released.
You're right. The immediate investigation and everything behind it doesn't have to be public knowledge until later on.
Gotcha.
But once the audit becomes official, like you're saying, then it becomes public knowledge to everyone.
Okay.
So they really weren't forced. They sat on this thing just to kind of give why this is so egregious. They sat on this until they were forced to go public with it, because either way, the next day
it was coming out.
The records were public knowledge.
And I guess for total full information on this particular woman's situation is, like I said before, she was seeing just multiple sexual harassment, I don't know how to say it, not attempts, they were
acts.
Direct acts. My head's not in the right place for this, but
it's a difficult thing to even talk about. It's not easy.
So on top of all of that, like this particular woman, her boss had shared nudes of this woman around the office, asked for sexual favors, and this particular woman had to go on business trips with this man, and apparently that became a pretty big issue too, and that's actually what tipped things over, from what I understand, was a recent business trip with that man.
Now, is this the one who, I can't remember if his name is Alex, I think?
I didn't look at any of the names of, I looked at the name of the woman and I forgot just in the short time that we were getting ready, but I don't really give a shit about any of the names of the people at Blizzard.
Well, basically what I'm saying is this is somebody who they were aware they had I guess, what's his name? J. Allen Brack.
So, do you remember a long time ago, I went on a long rant about Ubisoft and about how they move around their predators?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's that same thing. It was known. It was reported. No one cared.
Ugh. Yeah, there's a whole lot coming out, and unfortunately, it seems like the amount of information, there's just so much. It's difficult to believe that. I mean, it's not difficult to believe. It's just hard to comprehend the scale, I should say, of just how much people are.
It's filthy. It's filthy inside and out. Because, on top of all of that, the working conditions for the female staff are also terrible at Activision Blizzard, where reports were confirmed of a lot of the male staff, especially management, fucking off to go play WoW or Call of Duty, while plenty of the female staff either weren't invited or were directly told to do their work while they went to go play games.
Yeah, and if that's not bad enough, I was just reading something from BBC News that was stating that the men would do what was called a cube crawl, they would get drunk, crawl underneath the cubicles and look up women's skirts and other God knows what. I don't want to know.
What the fuck kind of cubicles do they have?
It's do you remember the cubicles that we had at the place that shan't be named?
Yes, I do.
Imagine removing the bottom layer of that
barricade.
Yeah. So it's the top exists as a wall, but the bottom is nothing but rails that you could go under.
I get it. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's really gross.
And I guess one thing to kind of preface, because I have talked to a couple of people where they were like, well, why don't they just quit? Plenty of these individuals that are being harassed are contractors, and it's hard for them to find work in the games industry as it is. And the other problem is that if they leave Activision Blizzard, they risk going to another company and the exact same thing happening.
Be blackballed too.
Yeah, well, there's that too. They can be blacklisted and pretty much run out of work in that state as well. But this is a problem with major game industries, biggest companies. I mentioned Ubisoft, reports from Insomniac, large companies, large video game companies. This is not new. Riot, that was the one that slipped my mind. Riot was another one riddled with sexual misconduct in its leadership.
And see, I didn't realize when because I remember the Riot showing up in the news, and I didn't even remember them having like the sexual allegations. I thought it was all about crunch when that happened.
It was more a frat boy mentality. It was more like a Chad mentality. Theirs was less sexual related and more it's a bro mentality. They got to do a bunch of shit. There were some allegations that kind of like swirled and then it quickly unswirled. Okay. It wasn't anything like this.
Not the scale, what we're looking at here with.
No, this is the same, if not worse, than Ubisoft's. It's both of them are on the same shit-covered pedestal right now.
Yeah, I remember getting to hear some of the sort of the inside stories about Ubisoft and people in particular, and it was really egregious with a few people. There were a couple of executives there that I'm glad I've forgotten their names. I hope we all forget them. Because the things they did were just inhuman, and it was all to make themselves feel like they were big.
It's always a power thing, right?
All right, so difficult topic.
Men in power. It's a common thing in businesses like that.
Okay, it is, but let me just say it isn't just women that this happens to.
Sure. Okay, that is fair. That is fair to say.
And I can tell you firsthand that it sucks, and it sucks.
Yeah,
a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So what this has turned into, along with the actual investigations in Activision Blizzard, also the employees company-wide are striking, as many of them as possible. And that's a hard thing for people in the video game industry to... Not that striking is a hard thing to do, but these are people who... Very many of them are barely getting a livable wage.
Yeah.
And they risk either being jobless in a foreign state, so there's plenty of people that fly out to California just to get this job at Activision Blizzard. And
and it's a contract position too. It's not a full-time job. That's what people.
Not all of them are contractors, but yes, it is a contract deal. So a lot of them are striking and risking having their contracts, be pulled from the company, and then they're jobless. But right now, they're practically jobless, anyways. There are, not to say that contractors are the only ones striking. I know people that are in Blizzard who are currently a part of the strike, and they're one person in particular. He is in a very shit boat where years ago, I want to say it was about 4 or 5 years ago, he got a contract position at Blizzard on the WoW team, like he's always dreamed, got hired into Blizzard full time, still working on WoW, and now he's like, I don't even know if I want to be a part of this company anymore, but I'm in California, living in a pretty expensive part of the city at that.
Yeah.
Do I go back to Kentucky and just look for a different job? Do I go to another city? Do I strike and then try to wait it out? Like, these people are in dire places.
Here's the silver lining, and I hate to say silver lining with this kind of situation, is that being able to blackball these individuals at this point is no longer possible. With this being public, no, at this point, right. Anyone that feels strongly enough that they have to get out, you don't wait. Get out now. You will figure out the situation. I promise you. I know that that might sound hypocritical coming from someone that's not in that situation, but it's worse to stay in the situation right now. When it's a very good time to get out. It's like you're not going to be judged for getting out. You're not going to be blackballed for getting out. There's a real reason as to why you get out, and it still would be looked at as prestigious work. You still did. You separate the games from the situation at the moment. The game that you worked on, the project that you worked on, is nothing short of great. And this situation doesn't. Yeah, you can be proud of what you did, even though the company is disgusting. So
anyone that won't hire you for leaving Blizzard right now with everything that's going on, it is going to be another situation very similar to that that you're running away from. Anyone that looks at that and says. Exactly. And any company that would have a problem with them leaving for that is going to be just as toxic. So, not missing out on anything there.
a minute ago, I couldn't quite get my voice together. All I could seem to say was it sucks. But the fact is, it's not these people who do this. They don't go after people just because they're attracted to them. I mean, that might be like the impetus of it, but it's they pick people who are vulnerable.
They see as weak, yeah.
If you have a vulnerability, like they keep a lot of contractors, these people are vulnerable. Most of them have gone to school, they have debt that they're working through, they can't afford to lose this job, and it affords that predator mentality an in, basically. Mm-hmm. And my heart goes out to anybody who's been in this situation.
Yeah. Now, I just want to emphasize that these guys have been scum for so long, so very long. I did see an article Kotaku posted about what the Blizz developers called the Cosby Suite.
Yeah.
So now, I'm not here arguing saying Bill Cosby's a good guy or a bad guy or anything. We're not here to talk about that right now. We can talk about it later if we really want.
That's funny. I've had a similar conversation. I think I know where you're going to go with that, but I agree. Yeah, we'll keep it separate. But yeah.
Right. But the thing is at the time of this creation of this Cosby Suite was when Bill Cosby was going through the allegations of him being a sexual predator and roofing his victims before having sex with them. And this is the one that they're trying to turn into an icon for this room in a hotel. Really? Now again, yeah, it's not saying that he's guilty or not, but you're idolizing the worst person you possibly can.
You're idolizing someone that had those allegations against them, whether they've been overturned now or not, or whether they're in the deepest of hearts true.
Right. It would be like being something that it's like being at a butter convention and saying Paula Deen room. It's like nothing good is going to happen there.
There's no and I don't mean to connotation there that's seen in a positive light.
Exactly.
How do you spin that? There's no way to, because just calling it the Cosby Suite tells everybody what they need to know.
You know what you're implying. It's not
exactly
innocent or not. Everyone, when you say Cosby Suite, there's not a single person that won't understand that for the most part.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. So it's, and Nick, you were saying you've spoken to a few people, and it's off the record, obviously. They don't know what they're going to do. The whole company now, like all these poor developers who have put their heart and soul into making these games, breaking their backs, working like 80-hour weeks or more, are now completely in limbo because the NBA types have been fucking off and making the wrong decisions for years. Mm-hmm. And it's disgusting, and I really feel like that type of individual is prevalent in a lot of businesses. It's not just, computer development. Sorry, software development.
No, it's service desk work where we know the pay is not the greatest. It's even food industry when they have fucking food courts there, and it's a much more lavish type of workplace. Like, there's a lot of workers that are having to deal with this situation, having to deal with whether or not they continue to work there or not, and if they don't, what do they do? And hell, by the time all of this is done, can Blizzard even bounce back from it? What? Go ahead.
The scary thing is, so for those that don't know, the CEO of Activision Blizzard is a man named Bobby Kotick. We call him the Devil because he is the devil.
Look at his smile.
He's one of the world's most overpaid CEOs and all of that stuff. But what makes this so difficult and trying to actively want change from the company is potentially moving him out of that spot and getting a CEO that actually does something for the company other than make money from it. But he is someone with a lot of power and a lot of money, one of the richest men in the world. I mean, the day he gets out of the company by any means will be a day for celebration for average people like myself or the people at Blizzard, mainly the people at Blizzard, Activision Blizzard. But the thing that's so hard about all of this is no one knows what his position is going to be in all of this, because this is misconduct that happened under his supervision in his company and was reported a lot more than once, and he actively did nothing about and ignored it to make more money. So
do we have information about how it was ignored? Because keep in mind, so this is by no means, this is not protecting anyone or anything like that, but I want to make sure everyone kind of understands where these allegations go and who actually has the power to deal with these kind of things. Because a lot of times we throw the blame on CEOs, and that doesn't mean that they don't have some sort of blame here, but really the blame goes to these legal departments and these legal teams that work in the shadows, people that never get to see, whose faces never come to light as having a significant influence here. So keep in mind, like, these companies, they have legal teams themselves, and a lot of times when these allegations go up, they're reported up, and then that's it. It's reported to HR. HR takes it to legal. Legal makes the decision on how they're gonna, if egregious enough, legal makes the decision on how they're going to handle it. So it's HR and legal usually that really need a bulk of the blame here. Not saying the CEO doesn't need a portion of this blame, because if it was reported all the way up to him and he didn't take it there and he wasn't adamant about this being investigated. So for the simple fact, take away, and I know this is difficult, but it's I feel like this exercise is also needed. Take away the human aspect of it. And even if he was just doing it to protect the company, at that point, regardless of how talented the individual or individuals are, I would want to protect my company and my employees. Let me make it very clear: not just my company, but my employees. But even if he's a shitty human being and he doesn't want to protect his employees, he would want to protect his company. And so at that point, he would do everything possible to distance himself from those individuals.
So with that being said, too, yesterday, and this is some pretty recent news that I haven't seen yet. Well, yesterday he did release a letter in reference to it, and I'm just sitting here reading through it, and it's probably the most generic, like lukewarm shit I've ever read in my life.
Right.
That's option number 2.
It's what he was obligated to do at the time. Right?
Absolute obligation.
And then
what I'm saying is he was just check marking the boxes, right?
Yes.
I would be more interested, and I would love to see from a CEO, from a leader, come out and go, here's how I reported it, everyone. Here's how I tried to do my part to make sure people were safe. And then I would have also liked to see it just be
transparent,
not forward thinking, but proactive.
Show his work and show his involvement.
Show your work, show your involvement.
Even if it was none at all, which I doubt.
If it was
none at all, as in it never got to him. Most CEOs, like Cedric is saying, most CEOs see the Cliff Notes version of it. They see the high notes of it as it affects the company in the big picture.
Right.
But all of that being said, with these allegations going on and with the investigation, he'd be the first to know about the investigation probably too. And then the eventual him hearing about these incidents, it would be good to hear what his actual involvement is in those cases, if at all. And based on his public persona that people know about him and report on him so far, he's not the type to care about the individuals as long as the money keeps flowing for the company and for the investors. And that's where a lot of the hate comes from.
And that's very, very sad. And that's not a mark of a good leader. But again, this threatened his company, right?
Exactly.
So even looking at it from a business perspective, and I know people are going to have a very difficult time looking at it that way, because that's not how you should look at this by no means.
Especially a public.
But that is the fact, right? So he was negligent on two ends. He was negligent. Well, I'm going to say he was potentially negligent. I don't want to misstate anything. He was potentially negligent on two ends, right?
That's fair enough.
So what I would like to see CEOs do in this type of situation, because this is a part of it that needs to be talked about. How do you prevent this from happening, or how do you make sure it doesn't get as bad as this, right? Obviously, the simple and easy answer is it just shouldn't happen. But it's the world, and every company has sexual harassment attached to it. Every single company does, because it's a part of the world. The reason it doesn't come out very often is because, one, the companies may not be large enough for it to even for it to come out, And two, it's the same reason why this didn't come out for so long. Victims are scared, or they're scared to come forward, and rightfully so. But what I would like to see from industry leaders, people that everybody knows their name, and they do now have a larger obligation to the public than just providing a good and service, is to be proactive and open and very, very
Honest
about those kind of allegations the moment they come up.
Yeah.
Yes.
Every time.
And not just providing a we send our condolences kind of response.
And look, a lot of the time, some of the response you see from the person is that they're really disgusted with themselves and never go back to that job. And then they just deal with years of trauma. And I think that actually happens quite a bit, and you just don't know about it. There is no, oh, I want money now. It's not about that. It's about
there is a whole lot of settling, and the settling has to do with just not wanting to deal with the situation. It's high anxiety, it's high stress. I just wanted to go away. If it going away means me taking a lump sum and not having to talk about it with anyone for a while, then fine, right?
Yeah.
And I can't say that that's not from the victim's standpoint, not by the person that was abused. But what I'm saying, I can't say that I like that companies pay people off, but I understand it from a legal standpoint. Even if that were to happen, there still needs to be that transparency. Hey,
don't just like
this happened.
To the next city.
There was a settlement. If you would like to read the details, the public details are here. Don't hide it. Don't hide behind it and let it compound. And then you need to proactively talk about how you're making the situation better.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah, cover-ups. I think the public in general is just getting sick of this. It seems like it's happening, more and more often. And obviously, I think I would attribute a lot of that to the fact that it's, the world itself is more connected now in terms of how quickly information can spread. And the truth will out regardless. Like, lies may be able to, go all the way around the planet before the seeds of truth are in the ground, but they'll come out eventually. Nobody can stop it. And I
would love to say I agree with that, but unfortunately, the kind of world we live in, sometimes these things just won't ever come to light. Not until it's too late, or not until it doesn't matter anymore. Or maybe that person is, passed away, and there's no one here to listen.
Yeah, that's true.
With that, and I know that's a dark way to look at it, but that's why people do it, and that's why some people do we don't hear about it and it's now recently in the last decade is getting the type of vision and attention it needs, because people are sick of it and paying attention to it. But before that, a lot of this just went to people's graves. So what I would like to see, because I understand the thought process and the notion of how do we control others so that this doesn't happen, that you can't control others so this doesn't happen. It is ultimately going to be a reactory type of situation, because you have an employee base, thousands and tens of thousands of employees. You can't control what those employees are going to do.
True.
But you can control how you react to it, and you can control how you plan for it. And you can instill in your workforce more than once a year with annual sexual harassment training what it will mean if these kind of things happen on your time.
And you know what? That brings up a good point. We've all gone through like the yearly annual trainings that we literally pencil whip through because we're so sick of the same shit every year. It's just they change the year. That's it.
That's generic.
Yeah, and they're ugh.
It's HIPAA guideline stuff. But I think one thing, all of that being addressed, I think the one thing that makes it so hard to understand from the highest level of management is that this is not a new claim, and it's not anything new that the company has gone through.
Yeah.
And yet no one at any point in the company decided to do anything.
Well, that's what makes it egregious, right? It's because
that's what makes it so awful.
It didn't slow down. They didn't deter it for any amount of time. It just kept happening, and it kept getting worse, which tells you that it was something that wasn't very high up on their to-do list. It wasn't something that they was very high up on there. We need to take care of now, right? It just kept happening at alarming rates, and people just kept, getting hurt.
And I wish I had it in front of me, the memo, the response from Fran Howard. It was really gross to read it. It was basically she questioned the merit of the lawsuit and not, the business itself. Like, we need to, the generic response that was like, oh, we really need to take a look at this, and whoever's responsible, they need to go. Instead, she questioned the legitimacy of it all. And I think when people saw that a lot of people were just really disgusted by that, for one. And I know that I am very much disgusted.
You said Fran Howard? I think it was Fran Townsend.
Yeah, I may have gotten her name way wrong.
Okay,
so totally I apologize, Miss Howard, if there's anybody out there right now getting shit for what I said.
Yeah, no.
It's a terrible situation, but, something that you brought up earlier, Cedric, that I was thinking about when you're talking about businesses being transparent and proactive about, admitting this stuff, putting it out there, and then doing something to make sure it doesn't happen again. I am definitely all for that, and I hope that begins to happen, but I will say one thing to the public at large, like all of us who will respond to that. We have to learn how to forgive people, and that includes businesses. When this kind of thing happens, if they are transparent and they show that they're doing something right away, we have to 100%. Stop with this reflexive condemning of them now and forever into the future.
Oh yeah,
because
we have to remember not to punish the employees of a place. I mean, if you have 3 shitbags at the top and the employees are, obviously against them, taking strike on them, whatever the case may be, we need to make sure we don't punish them in our response to something. And like you said, if the company is willing to remove the cancer, let's
own it,
that's another reason to support them, right? Go ahead.
No, that was a great, what you were saying, that's another reason to support them, because like a culture that doesn't forgive, all it does is foster a society.
It's more toxicity at the end of the day, right? If we talk about toxicity, and this is getting into a completely different conversation, you have to talk about 2 sides of the coin. If you're not willing or able to forgive when the right things are done, and the situation is made amends and made clear, genuine amends and made clear, not fake, but genuine amends and made clear, and they're really doing the best they can to be
the ideal company,
what we need them to be, then we need to forgive them, right?
It's not easy, but we have to do it.
No, it's not easy, but you do need to do it, because that just fosters a whole different type of toxicity.
Yeah, a culture where you do everything you can to hide it, because you know that if you get caught, you're fucked forever. So you will literally kill to keep it under wraps. That's not the culture we want, I don't think. I certainly don't. But those are just my thoughts on it. It's a tough subject, but I'm sure more will come out in the days to come.
Oh, definitely. I think more will come out. There'll be more to talk about, but more importantly, I think from all of us, we hope we addressed it in a manner that was fair and sincere, and that felt sincere. It's definitely sincere, but that felt sincere to listeners. And this is not an easy subject to touch. We kicked around whether we wanted to touch it or not, but we felt like it was important to get that information out there and address it the best way we knew how. So we hope that at the end of the day that we, again, did justice to it, and we helped draw the appropriate light to things, and maybe it makes it, if anything, easier as a consumer and these employees that went through this to fight.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And, we'd love to hear from people what they think. If you think we're wrong about something, please, if you can keep it constructive, let us know in the comments. We will, respond to you. We want to know what you think.
Also, and just a shout out to anyone out there working in a place that speaks up about stuff, even if it's not against them. Being quiet about something is definitely not okay. There's a saying that I really like when I see situations like this, and it's all that's necessary for the triumph of evil is that good men or people do nothing, and that's super true especially when it comes to sexual harassment. If you are in a place working sexual harassment, you see it making someone uncomfortable, you can come forward and let someone know. Again, you can reach out to RAINN, RAINN, 800-656-4673. They help with sexual assault, sexual harassment, stuff like that.
I urge you to do that, because if you don't tell anybody, it will.
If you don't tell anyone, you're just as guilty.
No, I mean, it's not that you're guilty, but like if you get sexually harassed and all you do is just decide that, because it's going to fuck you up on the inside. It's going to make you feel like you've done something wrong. First of all, and
I mean, more the people that witness this and just stay silent about it are just as guilty as the people doing it.
My message is really just to the victim. Don't let yourself feel like it was your fault.
No.
And don't just keep it inside, because it will eat you alive for years to come. Tell somebody, even if it's just a good friend, or call that number if you want, because sometimes you don't want that that kind of trauma to touch this other sphere of your life, with your friends. You don't want them to know. So call that number, talk to somebody. It will help. And that's my 2 cents. I don't know.
My closing notes is I want to read Bobby Kotick's response to all of this.
Oh, yeah.
To really paint a picture of the type of businessman he is. Every voice matters, and we will do a better job of listening now and in the future. I'm sorry that we did not provide the right empathy and understanding. That's it.
Wait,
that's literally saying, I'm sorry we didn't give a shit. No, there's
wow.
Well, there is a longer letter, but that was the obligatory thing.
Yeah. It is, like Cedric said, it is ticking off the box because I am the businessman that has to do that, but it's also like you couldn't even attempt to lie.
Well, and honestly, I think these letters are terrible ideas to begin with. I think you hold a very difficult, rough conference, and you speak genuinely and from the heart, and not a scripted message.
Like
just
what
say,
police
hey,
marshals do.
Well, yes.
Not to say that those are a crowning example, but where someone gets in front of a camera on a pedestal live on television and goes, "Here we go."
Yep, and just be honest and just say, hey, if you don't have the answers to things, it's like I wish I could tell you, but I honestly don't know. I don't have that information.
Nothing else.
I don't know what we could have done better to prevent this, but I can tell you this: that we will figure it out.
Yeah,
and you
know,
nothing else. I'd like to watch him sweat and crumble, and that's enough for me to know that he knows he's in a bad place now.
I mean,
worse than it's ever been.
I kind of
maybe because it's that specific individual. I wouldn't want someone that truly, like, it's just the normal CEO. He typically does right by his employees and things. That now this is just a terrible situation.
That's fair.
He didn't have as much information over. I don't want to see anyone like have that much anxiety and stress in their life, because that's another form of toxicity, right? But
true.
But what I would like to see is him just bring a human aspect to it. Like, I know that might sound a little hypocritical because I asked you to take the human aspect out for certain situations, but I did preface that with, this is a very human aspect and human thing, and that it shouldn't be taken out unless you're talking about it in a certain aspect. So when he's addressing everyone, yes, that human aspect needs to be there.
Yeah. Because
that's what everyone is looking for. More importantly, it's what's going to give people the confidence that you're going to fix it, and that people aren't going to get hurt by your company. So absolutely, it needs to be someone that is remorseful for this, whether or not they had a large or not so large involvement in it.
Yeah. Do you guys, last thought here, and it can be a simple yes or no, but something Cedric brought up, and I would like to hear your opinion. Do you think that Blizzard can bounce back from this, or is this going to be something that irreparably damages that company?
I think Blizzard I hate to say it, I think Blizzard's too big to fail.
It needs a top level restructure.
But it will. I think that is actually what will start the top level restructure. I think you're gonna see it forced to do a complete clean slate. I think Blizzard's too big to fail, and not in the aspect that we need it around, but in the aspect that like stakeholders won't allow it to fail. It's not gonna happen.
Too much invested money in there.
Now, if they keep fucking up on games along with this shit, absolutely it could fail. But and again, that's not to say that this is less important than the games they're creating. I'm saying that from a monetary perspective, that if they continue to have these allegations alongside with making poor quality products, absolutely it will fail. But I think it's gonna be both and not one or the other. And unfortunately, that's a sad realization of our society.
It's not like a local restaurant where it can be closed overnight. This is something that would take years and years and years. But I think the only thing that could properly save that company is a top-down restructure.
Yeah, I mean, like I said before, they have to remove the cancer. They're gonna have to do a little bit of healing. It's gonna be like that, you know.
Well,
you're gonna have to,
their image will be scarred for years. Absolutely.
Well, yeah, and that's the other thing is they're gonna have to make sure that their employees feel safe going forward.
The cancer isn't just Activision; it's the whole management team from the Activision Blizzard side.
Oh yeah, I mean, if they're letting everything like that go on, then all of them need to get the fuck out of there.
It's all of it, because it's like I've had like. Okay, so of the 3 people I know, only one of them are a woman. Jesus, listen to me talk.
It's been a long.
Only one of them are a woman, and she said that maybe on her team, she got treated pretty fairly, but she has witnessed it happened, and she has definitely heard more than rumors of how it runs on different teams and different departments.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, it's not something that it's not a boogeyman in this case. I mean, it is a straight up real thing in your face. People really need to start just understanding that, you know, workplaces like this are not okay. Like, I get it, you know, when you're young and you're like, oh, I'm going to make a video game company and we're going to make it however we want to and we're going to have fun and blah, blah, blah.
Good luck with that.
Well, there's a right way and a wrong way to do that, you know, like.
It's tough.
Yeah, it is not a fence that is really easily set on. You know, it's either you're strict and by the book, or you're Activision Blizzard. You know, and it's one of those situations where it's like you got to pick one and be able to deal with the consequences of your decision. And if you want to have a Cosby room and you know, all this crazy stupid bullshit, you know, this is going to happen eventually. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that's probably going to be our 2 cents on it, and then we'll, you know, if there's anything major that happens, we'll of course update it. But I don't know that there's much else that we can say. Yeah.
The only thing I want to say next about it is everyone got their heads out of their asses, and things are going to go back to good. But you know, time will tell.
It's so hard to tell. On such a giant corporate level, it's keep only
in mind, when I say bounce back from it, I mean, I don't mean like, is this the thing that just destroys them? I mean, is this the thing that we look back, you know, a decade from now, if they're gone, and we say that was the moment that they went from going sort of downhill to just, you know, there was no real coming back, I guess.
I don't think this will be that moment. It will be the repercussions of this moment that determine it.
Yeah,
we don't know what this moment's bringing until it's done.
If nothing happens, then absolutely. If a top-down restructure happens, then people are going to be cheering for days.
Yeah, because I'll admit, like, I would really love, honestly, to see Blizzard come back, because I love so many of their IPs, but they feel so
dead. Soulless?
Yeah, like despondent, like almost like they just kind of went, fuck it. Who cares? You guys have phones, right? We can make phone games.
It's because they rip the souls out of their staff.
Yeah. Like, I do have a phone. Why don't you sit on it? Sideways, asshole.
Yeah. It's
Anyway.
a flip phone.
This is gonna hurt. Oh.
Anyways, yeah. So, yeah. I mean, I'm not even going to throw a final note on there.
Yeah, that's really it. That's really it.
That's it from the tiny dragons who sit there in an electronics boutique at night. We just watch too much TV. Have a hug from us, though. We'll see you next week.
Take care, everyone.